One thing you really can't get around as a film critic in this day and age is that the theater experience is in big trouble. From self-evident declining attendance to streaming platforms buying out major legacy studios, almost gone are the days when whole crowds of people would gladly part with their hard-earned money to share the experience of seeing a new movie on the big screen. Almost. Once in a while, a diamond in the rough crops up that draws enough attention to reinvigorate theater attendance, if only for a brief moment, to prove to the powers that be that yes, we still want this. And holy cow, is that the case for Iron Lung, a claustrophobic cosmic horror movie made largely by one man, Markiplier. Or does he want to be known as Mark Fishbach here? This film was always going to have a rocky path to success. Shelby Oaks was made by a guy who at least spent significant time researching and analyzing movies beforehand and had a lot more people working on it, yet still resulted in a meandering failure that left most people resolved that YouTube experience doesn't equate to filmmaking prowess. Given this, you might think that an indie film written and directed by a heavily leading actor famous for doing video game playthroughs on YouTube with precisely zero professional experience would be a hard sell to distributors. You'd be wrong though. It made $21 million on opening weekend alone against a $3 million budget and is holding an audience score in the 90s. I mean, 21 million might not sound like a lot in terms of overall box office, but you have to remember that this is a debut film made by a man with zero industry traction and a lot going against him. But all the hype in the world won't stop me from ripping a movie apart if it turns out to be a dud. So, which way did Iron Lung go? The surprise hit or the predictable failure? Iron Lung is based on a video game of the same name because the new law of cinema is that everything that isn't a sequel, prequel, remake, reboot, or spin-off has to be a video game adaptation. I've never played the game myself. In fact, I'm not all that big on video games in general, so this review will solely focus on the film. There will be no mercy for key jangling and member berries from me, Mark. The vast majority of the known universe has stopped existing in the wake of an event known as the Quiet Rapture. Those precious few who remain are scattered in various clusters, desperately trying to cling to whatever's left and see if there isn't some way out of this mess. Most of the film takes place inside a submarine that's been welded shut and is populated by one man, a convict named Simon, who's been sent on a suicide mission to explore an alien world's ocean of blood to find something. What? Don't know, and neither does the script, so don't think about it too hard. Simon himself is not thrilled about the option, but at the end of this screwed up tunnel is a promise of freedom that feels increasingly hollow. As the film and the mission progress, Simon butts heads against Lovecraftian ocean monsters, the very people who sent him on this doomed mission, voices that may or may not be there, and his own willpower. Will he complete his mission, make it out in one piece, and earn his freedom, or will he succumb to the odds that don't care about anything or anyone? Honestly, this movie was a lot better than I expected going in. Exactly how good is going to depend on your perspective here, because if you're looking for high art on par with Good Will Hunting, then this probably isn't the movie for you. If, on the other hand, you want something that proves it's possible for a production that wasn't dragged through the trenches of studio involvement to create something that looks and sounds good and is equally enjoyable, then you'll want to give it a try. Because it does look fantastic. The audio is also pretty good, with maybe the exception of the radio transmissions, and you're able to piece together enough from Simon's dialogue to figure out the conversation taking place. Mark himself delivers a surprisingly strong performance as an average man at the end of his rope being forced to carry on a task he knows is pointless. Through no fault of his own, however, I'd get invested in what was happening on screen and then remember, oh yeah, that's Markiplier. If you can get past that fact, you'll be fine. You definitely can't fault the guy for love of the source material. He worked closely with game creator David Szymanski, and I don't know how to explain it, but you can just feel that this was a labor of love for both of them. And props to Mark for not throwing in game lore just for the sake of it. Looking at you, FNAF. Now, was it perfect? Of course not. The writing was bloated in places and sluggish in others, which is the natural result of trying to stretch a simple premise across 2 entire hours. The main character and the world he lives in could have used a bit more fleshing out, and I can't begin to guess the purpose of the fish guy that crops up a couple times. The dialogue is pretty info-dumpy, but I can have some grace for it being Mark's first serious attempt at a legitimate script. The big problem is all the questions that get raised but then never answered. Yes, I know it's cosmic horror and you're not meant to have all the answers, but there's a difference between not knowing the nature of the fish monsters and being in the dark about the main character's backstory. What exactly happened at Filament Station? Why did Eden want to destroy it? Who were/are Eden, and who are the coalition that seem to have Simon trapped? All things taken together, I recommend you give Iron Lung a shot. It's flawed, sure, but it's a lot better than it has any right to be, and it's taken the world by storm for all the right reasons. Shoot, man, even Will Jordan is on board for this one. So if you're not one to faint at the sight of blood, go see it before it's gone, because you might not get another chance to before the DVD release comes out. Point of all this being, buy physical media while you still have the option.